Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. On a freezing winter night inside a small farmhouse, after losing everything, his company, his career, and the people who once stood beside him, Toan quietly takes Tu Diem out into the cold rain to do something unexpected that could change her life. But with almost no money left and an uncertain future ahead, will their love be strong enough to face what comes next? Now, let's explore the story of Toan and Tu Diem together. If you enjoy the story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. Inside the small room of the farmhouse, a weak yellow light spreads across the wooden walls that have aged through many years. The dark wood grains seem to record every winter the house has endured. Outside, the cold wind moves across the dark fields and slips through the cracks in the door. Toan pulls a thick blanket around Tu Diem's shoulders after she steps out from her bath. Warm steam still lingers in her hair. He gently draws her closer, letting the warmth from his body help protect her from the cold. Tu Diem rests her head lightly against his shoulder. She says nothing and simply looks at the open book in Toan's hands. The book is old. The cover is worn and several pages are folded at the corners. Toan reads slowly. His voice is low and steady. The pages speak about philosophies of life and lessons from scientists and thinkers he once studied during the years when he was building his career. Tu Diem listens carefully. She does not fully understand every concept in the book, but she understands the way Toan speaks. Every sentence he reads carries a thought behind it. She nods slightly from time to time, as if quietly storing the things he wants to share. After a while, Toan stops reading. He half closes the book and exhales slowly. The room is so quiet that the sound of wind moving across the roof can be heard. His voice becomes deeper. He says that once he had a large family. There were full dinners and lively conversations. But when he thinks about it now, it feels like a distant memory. The feelings he has when he is with Tu Diem are completely different. They are not complicated. They are not loud. But they are real. And they are deep enough to make him feel that he still has a place to return to. Toan says that now there are only two people in this small house. No big company, no office, no colleagues who used to call him every day. Only Toan and Tu Diem leaning on each other to continue living. He pulls her a little closer, as if he wants to hold tightly to the only support he has left. Tu Diem does not speak, but her fingers tighten around his hand. That small gesture feels like a silent promise that she will not leave. Outside, the winter wind continues to sweep across the fields. The cold seems to grow deeper, but inside the small room, the closeness between them creates a different kind of warmth. It is not the warmth of fire. It is the warmth of two people trying to hold on to each other after losing so many things. Toan opens the book again, but this time he does not continue reading. Instead, he begins talking about a meeting earlier that day with an old friend. The friend once worked with him on several large business projects. That friend believed Toan was still running the company. When they met, the friend asked about new projects, but Toan only shook his head. He explained that everything had changed. His mother had taken back full control of the company. After that, the company collapsed. The people who used to work beside him slowly disappeared. Phone calls were not answered. Messages received no reply. The people who once promised they would stand beside him during success no longer appeared. The friend that day tried to encourage him. The friend said he would try to help look for a few new job opportunities. But when Toan tells the story now, his voice still carries weight. He says it can take 10 years to build a company, but losing it may only take a single day. What hurts him the most is not losing money. What hurts him is how quickly people disappear. Tu Diem sits beside him and listens. Her eyes are filled with understanding. She does not offer grand advice, but she stays there. Toan states one thing very clearly. In everything that has changed, only Tu Diem has remained. She did not leave when everything collapsed. She still cooks meals. She still stays in this small house with him. She still listens every time he speaks. After that, Toan opens the book again and reads a short passage about how people often argue about the wrong things and forget the most important truth in life, which is who truly stays beside them. But while reading, Toan notices that Tu Diem has already fallen asleep. She is so tired that her head tilts gently to one side. Her breathing becomes light and steady. Toan looks at her sleeping face for a long moment. Under the yellow light, her face looks more peaceful than usual. Inside him rises a mixture of regret and determination. Memories return of the long road he walked to build his construction company. The days when he barely slept, the large projects, the loans, the moments when everything seemed close to collapsing. Yet he managed to survive those times. Now that that path is gone, he knows he must choose another one, as long as Tu Diem continues walking beside him. Toan gently brushes his fingers through her hair. He whispers a promise that he will make up for the hardships Tu Diem has endured since childhood in that poor rural place. That night, in the quiet of the farmhouse, memories of the past and hope for the future exist together in Toan's thoughts. After a while, Toan softly wakes Tu Diem. He tells her she should come outside with him for a little while. Tu Diem opens her eyes, surprised. She asks where they are going. Toan simply smiles and says she only needs to follow him. There is nothing to worry about. Tu Diem hesitates for a few seconds. She knows Toan is carrying many worries about work. She also feels how cold it is outside. But finally she nods. She stands up and picks up the old pair of shoes beside the door. Toan kneels down to help her put them on. He places the bag over her shoulder and carefully zips up her jacket. These small gestures are simple but filled with care. The door opens. Cold wind immediately rushes inside. Light rain falls from the sky. Toan places a hat on Tu Diem's head to protect her from the rain. Tu Diem softly asks whether walking together like this might cause people to talk. Toan looks directly into her eyes and says, "There is nothing to be ashamed of." He tells her he is proud of her. He says her sincerity is worth more than anything he has ever had. Tu Diem lowers her head. Her cheeks turn slightly red. Inside, she feels both gratitude and emotion. Toan takes Tu Diem's hand. They walk onto the dirt road in front of the farmhouse. Their shadows merge into the quiet rural night. In the biting cold, the warmth of their clasped hands becomes the only source of comfort. A small hair salon stands along the county road. Neon lights shine onto the pavement and create a warm feeling against the cold night. Toan guides Tu Diem inside and politely asks the stylist to make her beautiful. Tu Diem sits down in the chair. Her hands grip the edge of her shirt. This is the first time in her life she has had her hair cut and dyed at a salon. The stylist studies her face for a moment and suggests soft curls at the ends to frame her face. The stylist asks if she would like to dye her hair. Tu Diem shyly admits she has never dyed her hair before. Toan sits nearby, occasionally glancing at her and offering an encouraging smile. When the stylist begins working, Toan stands up and says he will step outside for a moment and return later to pick her up. Tu Diem nods. Inside, she feels both excitement and worry. She is not used to changing her appearance. She is also concerned about the cost. Inside the salon, time passes slowly as strands of hair fall one by one. Tu Diem watches her reflection in the mirror. The image gradually changes. The face looking back at her feels both familiar and unfamiliar, but somehow it seems brighter. 3 to 4 hours pass. When Toan returns, he stops for a moment. His eyes light up. He says that Tu Diem looks very beautiful. Tu Diem lowers her head shyly, but inside her heart, something new begins to grow. It is not only her hair that has changed. It is the quiet feeling that she may truly deserve to be loved. After leaving the hair salon, Toan stepped onto the county street that was still lit by rows of warm lights. Light rain continued to fall, and the cold wind moved across the road, making the pavement shine under the yellow lamps. Toan stopped for a moment under the edge of a roof and reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out his wallet. There was not much money left inside. He looked at the remaining bills quietly for a few seconds, as if calculating something. In the past, he used to sign contracts worth billions without much hesitation. Now even a small expense required careful thought. Toan closed the wallet and started walking again. The hesitation in his eyes slowly disappeared. He entered a phone shop a few doors down the street. Inside the shop, the lights were bright. Mobile phones were neatly displayed behind glass counters. The shopkeeper looked up as Toan walked in. Toan said he wanted to buy a new phone. It did not need to be expensive. It only needed to work well. The shopkeeper introduced several models. Toan chose one that cost around 4 million dong. He asked the seller to install the SIM card and a protective case immediately. While the phone was being prepared, Toan stood quietly and looked through the glass window. He thought about the times when Tu Diem had to go far to buy things or run errands and had no easy way to contact him. If she had a phone, it would make things easier. When it was time to pay, Toan slowly handed over the money. The amount left in his wallet became noticeably smaller, yet inside his chest, he felt slightly lighter. After leaving the phone shop, Toan continued walking down the street. The lights from clothing stores were still glowing. He stopped in front of a small clothing shop. Inside, several outfits were displayed neatly. Toan stepped in. The shop assistant greeted him. Toan looked around for a moment and said he wanted to choose some clothes for a woman. The assistant asked about the size. Toan used his hands to estimate Tu Diem's height and figure. He chose 2 simple outfits: a light-colored shirt and a pair of fitted pants, soft colors that suited Tu Diem's gentle personality. The assistant suggested a few other styles, but Toan shook his head. He said this was enough. He also asked whether the clothes could be exchanged if the size was not right. The assistant nodded. Toan paid for the items. As he held the shopping bag, he looked down at it for a few seconds before stepping back outside. Inside him was a quiet mixture of worry and warmth. He wanted Tu Diem to have better things, even though his situation was no longer the same as before. When Toan returned to the salon, Tu Diem had just finished her new hairstyle. Soft curls rested gently on her shoulders. Her face looked brighter under the salon lights. When she saw Toan walk in, she stood up. She looked slightly shy. Toan paused for a moment and smiled. He said she looked very beautiful. Tu Diem lowered her head in embarrassment. Toan handed her the shopping bags. He explained that inside there was a new phone and a few outfits. Tu Diem froze in surprise. She never imagined that while she was having her hair done, Toan had quietly arranged all these things. She looked at the bags and then back at him. Her eyes filled with emotion. She said he did not need to spend so much money. Toan shook his head. He said he wanted to do it. He said Tu Diem deserved better things than what she had always had. The two of them left the salon together. A few shops along the county street were still open. Yellow lights reflected on the wet road. The night air was cold but calm. Toan noticed a small cafe on the corner and suggested they sit there for a while. Inside the cafe, it was much warmer than outside. The smell of roasted coffee filled the room. Toan ordered 2 cups of pure black coffee. He knew Tu Diem had never tasted coffee before. When the cups arrived, Tu Diem gently stirred hers with a spoon. She took a small sip. The bitter taste made her frown slightly at first, but a soft sweetness followed afterward, surprising her. She smiled. Seeing that smile, Toan smiled too. He told her that in the past, coffee kept him awake through long nights of work. Now he only wanted to sit quietly and drink a simple cup like this. They sat close together. Toan looked at her new hairstyle and said it suited her well. It made her face look softer and rounder. Tu Diem smiled, but said that if she had known the cost of the salon, she would have refused. Toan shook his head. He said women deserved to feel beautiful. He had wanted to do this for her for a long time. He told her about the phone and the clothes he had just bought. He said he wanted to take better care of her and make up for the hardships she had experienced. Tu Diem listened quietly. Warmth slowly spread through her chest. She said the most important thing for her was seeing Toan safe and peaceful. As long as he stayed beside her, everything else was not important. Toan placed his hand over hers under the table. He said that from now on they were one. He would live for her, and she would live for him. The cafe grew quieter as the night deepened. Soft music played. Steam from the coffee cups rose gently in the warm light. Tu Diem looked at Toan with shining eyes. It was her first time drinking coffee, but what she would remember most was not the taste. It was the feeling of being cared for and truly loved. Later, Toan ordered 2 bowls of spicy noodles, 1 seafood bowl for Tu Diem, and a mixed bowl for himself. He said they did not need to cook dinner tonight. They sat facing each other as steam rose from the bowls in the cool air. Tu Diem tasted a bite and smiled brightly. Watching her eat made Toan feel lighter. He thought about the entire day, the new hair, the new phone, the new clothes. All of it simply to see her happy. Tu Diem admitted she felt very happy, but still worried about the money that had been spent. Toan replied that the only thing that truly worried him was seeing her sad. Her sadness would also become his sadness. He promised he would do everything possible to keep her safe and happy. Tu Diem looked at him with slightly wet eyes. She said she only needed him to be happy, and she would stay beside him forever. They ate slowly, stretching the rare, peaceful moment. Outside, the night wind had grown colder, but inside the cafe, the warmth from the food and their closeness filled the space. Toan gently brushed his hand across Tu Diem's new hair. He said that no matter what happened tomorrow, they would hold hands and walk the road ahead together. Tu Diem squeezed his hand. Her heart was filled with hope. When they left the cafe, they walked slowly along the road back toward the farmhouse. Their shadows gradually faded into the night, but the love between them remained clear and steady, like a quiet promise for the peaceful days ahead.
Câu chuyện bắt đầu trong căn nhà nông trại nhỏ giữa đêm mùa đông lạnh buốt, khi Toàn và Từ Diễm chỉ còn lại nhau sau khi anh mất công ty và gần như toàn bộ sự nghiệp. Trong không gian yên tĩnh, Toàn đọc sách và chia sẻ với Từ Diễm về những biến cố khiến cuộc đời anh thay đổi, về những người ở bên cạnh nhưng đã rời đi. Điều duy nhất vẫn còn là sự hiện diện lặng lẽ của Từ Diễm. Sau đó, Toàn bất ngờ đưa cô ra ngoài giữa đêm lạnh, dẫn cô đến một tiệm làm tóc nhỏ. Trong khi Từ Diễm lo lắng về chi phí, Toàn âm thầm chuẩn bị những điều tốt đẹp cho cô. Khi Từ Diễm nhìn thấy mái tóc mới của mình, cô dần nhận ra rằng điều thay đổi không chỉ là ngoại hình mà là niềm tin rằng cô cũng xứng đáng được yêu thương và trân trọng.